I never thought the day would come when my own son would look me in the eye and say, "Mom, you're not welcome here anymore. Not welcome in the house I helped pay for, in the home where my grandchildren were born." But that's exactly what happened, because his wife decided I was no longer family. It was a Tuesday afternoon when Sarah called me. Her voice was tight, the way it gets when she's trying to sound polite but something's boiling underneath. "Evelyn," she said. "Always Evelyn, never Mom, even after 12 years. We need your signature on some paperwork. Can you come by the house tomorrow?" Just like that. No hello, no how are you. And the strangest part? She sounded almost nervous. I sat there in my little kitchen, holding the phone long after she hung up, staring at the cup of chamomile tea gone cold in front of me. The house was quiet, too quiet. I could hear the old wall clock ticking in the living room, the one Robert and I bought on our 20th anniversary. And I thought, something's wrong, very wrong. But let me take you back, dear, to how it all began. Before the ban, before the signature, before everything fell apart. My name is Evelyn Harper, and for most of my life, I've been the kind of woman who keeps the peace. I raised my son Michael on my own after his father passed when he was only 10. Robert had a heart attack right there in the driveway, dropped the grocery bags, and was gone before the ambulance even turned the corner. I still remember the sound of those cans rolling across the pavement. That's the kind of detail that stays with you. Michael grew up kind and steady the way his father was. He went to college on scholarships, got a good job as an engineer, and met Sarah at a work conference in Chicago. She was beautiful, tall, blonde, with that confident smile that makes people listen when she talks. When they got engaged, I was over the moon. I welcomed her with open arms, taught her my recipes, helped plan the wedding. I even gave them the down payment for their house, a cute colonial on Maple Street with a big oak tree in the front yard. "It's an investment in your future," I told them. Family helps family. Those first few years were sweet. I'd drive over every Sunday with a casserole or a pie, sit on their porch swing and watch my grandbabies, Lily and Noah, chase fireflies in the summer grass. Sarah would hug me at the door, call me Mom. Sometimes when she was in a good mood, Michael would kiss my cheek and say, "Thanks for coming, Mom. The kids light up when you're here." I had my own little place downtown, a modest 2-bedroom I bought after selling the family home. It was enough for me. I worked part-time at the library, volunteered at the church, tended my small garden out back. Tomatoes, basil, those little yellow roses Robert loved. Life wasn't grand, but it was peaceful. I had my routines. Monday laundry, Wednesday bridge club with the ladies, Friday night phone calls with Michael. He'd tell me about work, about the kids' school plays, about Sarah's new promotion at the marketing firm. Everything felt solid. Then slowly things started to shift. It was little things at first. Sarah stopped answering my texts right away. My Sunday visits turned into every other Sunday, then once a month. When I'd call, she'd say they were so busy, or the kids had activities. Michael still called, but his voice had this careful edge, like he was choosing every word. "We're fine, Mom, just swamped." I'd hear Sarah in the background sometimes, laughing with friends, or the TV blaring, and I'd wonder why they couldn't spare an hour for me. One afternoon, I drove over unannounced with a basket of fresh zucchini bread. My mother's recipe, Michael's favorite since he was a boy. The driveway was empty, so I let myself in the way I always had. The house smelled like lemon cleaner and something new, expensive candles, maybe. I called out, "It's just me," but no one answered. I left the bread on the counter with a note and went home feeling a little hollow. That night, Sarah texted, "Evelyn, please don't drop by without calling first. We need our privacy." Privacy. From me. The woman who changed Michael's diapers and held Sarah's hair back when she had morning sickness with Lily. I told myself I was being sensitive. Young families need space. I backed off. I stopped suggesting visits and waited for invitations that rarely came. Then came the day everything changed. It was about 6 months before that phone call about the signature. I was at the grocery store when I ran into Karen, Sarah's aunt, the chatty one. She hugged me too tight and said, "Evelyn, I'm so sorry about the argument. Family fights are the worst, aren't they?" I smiled, confused. "Argument? What argument?" Her face went pale. "Oh, nothing. Sarah mentioned you and Michael had a disagreement. I must have got it wrong. But I knew. Something had happened, and no one had told me. When I got home, I called Michael. He sounded tired. "Mom, it's nothing. Sarah just... she's stressed. Work's crazy, the kids are a handful. She didn't mean to upset you." "But what did she say, Michael? What did I do?" A long pause. Then, quietly, "She thinks you're too involved. That you criticize how we parent. She wants some boundaries." Boundaries. The word hit me like cold water. I had never criticized them, not once. I'd bitten my tongue 100 times when I saw the kids glued to screens or eating cereal for dinner. I'd smiled and helped and loved them the only way I knew how. I hung up the phone with tears in my eyes, feeling like I'd lost something I couldn't name. A few weeks later, Michael called and said, "Mom, Sarah and I talked. It might be best if you didn't come over for a while, just until things calm down." Couldn't breathe. "Michael, am I banned from seeing my own grandchildren?" "It's not like that," he said, but his voice cracked. "Just give us space." Space. That was the last time I stepped foot in their house. The last time I held Lily and Noah. The last time I saw my son without a wall between us. And for months I waited. I sent birthday cards, left voicemails, prayed every night that things would get better. I told myself Sarah was going through something, that Michael would come around. Until that Tuesday phone call. "Evelyn, we need your signature." I closed my eyes, gripping the edge of the kitchen table. Whatever this was, it was big. And whatever she had done, she needed me now. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the kitchen table with the phone in my hand, turning it over and over like it might give me answers. The house felt colder than usual, the radiator clinking softly in the dark. I kept replaying Sarah's voice, those few clipped sentences. She needed my signature. After banning me from their lives, after cutting me off from my grandchildren, she needed something from me. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I wasn't going to sign anything blind. I showered, put on my good navy blouse, the one Michael says brings out my eyes, and drove the 20 minutes to Maple Street. The oak tree in their front yard had lost most of its leaves. They lay scattered across the lawn like forgotten promises. Sarah's SUV was in the driveway, freshly washed, gleaming in the weak December sun. She opened the door before I could knock. She looked thinner than I remembered, her blonde hair pulled back tight. No makeup. There were faint shadows under her eyes. "Evelyn," she said, stepping aside just enough for me to pass. "Come in. Michael's at work." The house smelled different. Less like the vanilla candles she used to love, more like stale coffee and something sharp, like worry. Toys were piled in the corner of the living room, but the place felt strangely empty. No laughter echoing from the playroom. No little feet running to greet me. She led me to the dining table where a folder waited, thick and official-looking. A pen lay neatly beside it. "Coffee?" she asked, but her voice was flat, like she already knew I'd say no. "I'm fine," I said. I sat down and folded my hands in my lap. "What is this about, Sarah?" She hesitated, then sat across from me. For the first time in years, she wouldn't meet my eyes. "It's a refinance," she said finally. "Interest rates dropped. We're trying to lower the monthly payment and pull out some equity for home improvements. The bank needs all owners on the original deed to sign." I felt the air leave my lungs. Owners. When Michael and Sarah bought the house 12 years ago, they were young, just starting out. The down payment I gave them, $50,000 from Robert's life insurance, was more than they could manage alone. The mortgage broker suggested adding me to the deed for a better rate. "It's just paperwork," he'd said. "You'll always be protected." Michael promised they'd refinance and take my name off as soon as they could afford it. I trusted them. I signed. And there my name stayed. All these years. I stared at the folder. "You're telling me my name is still on the deed?" Sarah nodded, twisting the wedding ring on her finger. We meant to refinance sooner. Things got busy. Kids, careers." Her voice trailed off. "Busy." While I was banned from the house, while I hadn't seen my grandchildren in 6 months, they'd been living in a home that was legally half mine. And now they wanted to borrow against it, pull money out, and needed me to agree. I opened the folder slowly. The documents were thick. New mortgage application, equity line of credit, appraisal report. The house was worth nearly 3 times what they paid for it. And there, on page after page, was my name, Evelyn Harper, listed as co-owner. I looked up at her. "Sarah, you told me I wasn't welcome here anymore. You took my son and my grandchildren away from me. And now you need my signature to borrow money on a house that still belongs to me, too." Her face flushed red. She opened her mouth, closed it again. For the first time, she looked small. "It's not like that," she whispered. We need this. The kids need braces. The roof is leaking. Michael's bonus didn't come through this year." I felt something harden inside me. Not anger, exactly. Something calmer, clearer. "And if I don't sign?" I asked quietly. She looked at me then, really looked. Panic flickered across her face. "You have to," she said. "The bank won't approve it otherwise. Please, Evelyn. This is our home. Our home. Not mine. Not anymore," in her mind. I closed the folder and pushed it back toward her. "No," I said. The word hung in the air between us, simple and final. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. You can't be serious. You do this to us? To your own son? I stood up slowly. My knees didn't even shake. You did this, I said. You decided I wasn't family anymore. You decided I didn't deserve to see my grandchildren because I supposedly crossed some invisible line. You drew the boundary, Sarah. Now you get to live with it. She stood too, her chair scraping against the hardwood floor. You're punishing us because of a few arguments? Because I asked for space. Space, I repeated. My voice stayed steady, but inside I felt the ache of every missed birthday, every unanswered text. You didn't ask for space, Sarah. You shut me out. You let my son shut me out. And you did it while living in a house that still carries my name on the deed, my money in its foundation. She started to cry then, real tears, the kind that come from deep places. I'm sorry, she said. I was overwhelmed. The kids' work. I took it out on you. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I looked around the room, at the family photos on the mantle where I used to be included, now replaced with newer ones that didn't have me in them. At the crayon drawings taped to the fridge that I'd never seen before. I'm sure you didn't, I said softly. But it did. I walked toward the door. She followed me, pleading now. Evelyn, please. Michael doesn't even know I called you yet. He'll be devastated if this falls through. We're in real trouble here. I paused with my hand on the doorknob. Then maybe, I said, turning to face her. It's time he knew the truth about how deep that trouble goes. I stepped outside into the cold air. The door closed behind me with a soft click. As I walked to my car, I felt the weight of the past 6 months settle over me. Not crushing, but clarifying. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't the one waiting for permission. I was the one holding the pen. I drove home that afternoon with the windows cracked just enough to let the cold air bite my cheeks. Kept me sharp, kept the tears from falling. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I knew what I had to do next. I couldn't just walk away and leave it at that, no matter how satisfying it felt to say no. This wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. And my son deserved to hear it from me. I waited until evening. Michael usually got home around 6:30, and I knew his routine. He'd help the kids with homework, eat dinner, then sit on the back porch with a beer if the weather wasn't too bitter. I called him at 7:15. Mom! He picked up on the second ring, surprise in his voice. We hadn't spoken in weeks, not really spoken. Just short texts about birthdays or school events. Hi, sweetheart, I said, keeping my voice soft. Do you have a minute? Yeah, of course. Everything okay? I took a breath. I was at the house today. Sarah called me over. Silence on the line. Then, she what? Why? She needed my signature on some refinance papers. Did you know my name is still on the deed? Michael? All these years later. Another long pause. I could hear the television in the background, muffled voices of some cartoon the kids liked. We were going to take care of that, he said finally. It slipped through the cracks. Things have been hectic. Hectic, I repeated. That's what she said too. Mom, what happened? Did you sign? No, I said gently. I didn't. He exhaled, sharp and frustrated. Jesus, Mom. We're trying to fix the roof before winter really hits. The bank. Michael, I cut in, calm but firm. Your wife banned me from that house. From you. From Lily and Noah. She decided I wasn't welcome anymore, and you let her. And now you need something from me. Do you see how that feels? I heard a door close on his end. He must have stepped outside. His voice dropped. I know things got bad. She was struggling. Postpartum with Noah lingered longer than we thought. Work pressure. She felt judged sometimes when you'd come over. Little comments. Comments. My heart ached at that. Michael, I never judged. I only ever tried to help. I know, he said quietly. I know you didn't mean it that way, but she was drowning, Mom, and I was trying to keep the peace at home. I thought giving her space would calm things down. I didn't expect it to go on this long. Space. There was that word again. And the kids? I asked, my voice catching. You thought keeping them from their grandmother would calm things down? He didn't answer right away. I could picture him on the porch, breath fogging in the cold, rubbing the back of his neck the way he did when he was a boy and knew he'd hurt me. I missed you, he said at last. Every day. But Sarah, she was adamant. Said if I went against her on this, it would break us. I closed my eyes. There it was. The real line in the sand. So you chose her, I said. Not accusing. just stating the fact. I chose my marriage, he corrected. I thought eventually she'd come around. That you'd both cool off. But she didn't come around, did she? And now you're in financial trouble, and suddenly I'm useful again. That's not fair, he started. But his voice cracked. He knew. I softened. Michael, I love you. You're my son. I would move heaven and earth for you and those babies. But I won't be used. Not after being discarded the way I was. What do you want me to do? He asked, sounding suddenly young again, like the little boy who'd skin his knee and run to me for comfort. I want you to talk to your wife, I said. Really talk. About why she felt the need to cut me out. About what boundaries really meant to her. And then, when you're both ready, I want to see my grandchildren. I want Sunday dinners again. I want to be family, not just a signature on a page. He was quiet for so long I thought the call had dropped. Okay, he said finally. I'll talk to her tonight. We hung up, and I sat in my chair by the window, watching the streetlights flicker on. My hands were steady, but my heart felt raw, like an old wound reopened. The next few days were agonizing. No calls, no texts. I went about my routines, library shifts, watering the plants, baking bread I didn't really want. I told myself whatever happened next was out of my hands. Then, on Friday evening, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Michael standing there, alone. He looked exhausted, tie loosened, eyes red. He held a small paper bag from the bakery downtown. Zucchini bread? I asked, trying to smile. Your recipe, he said. I stopped on the way. Figured I'd better bring a peace offering. I stepped aside to let him in. He hadn't been in my house in over a year. We sat at the kitchen table like we used to when he was in high school and needed to talk. He set the bag down and ran a hand through his hair. Sarah and I talked, he began. All night. And the next day. It wasn't pretty. I waited. She admitted things got out of control. That she let resentment build up. About money, about parenting, about feeling like she was never good enough in your eyes. Some of it was fair. Some of it wasn't. She was depressed, Mom. Really depressed. And instead of telling me, she pushed you away because you were safe. You wouldn't leave. I felt tears prick my eyes. I wish she'd told me. I would have helped. I know, he said. She knows now. She's starting therapy. And she's sorry. Truly. And the refinance? He looked down. We'll figure something else out. Maybe a personal loan. Or cut back. The house. We'll get your name off the deed properly this time. No more shortcuts. I reached across the table and took his hand. It was warm, familiar. And the kids? I whispered. He smiled then, small and tired. They're asking about Grandma Evie nonstop. Lily drew you a picture. It's in the car. I couldn't help it. I started to cry. Quiet tears, the kind that come from relief more than pain. Michael came around the table and hugged me like he did when he was little, his chin on my head. I'm sorry, Mom, he murmured. I should have fought harder for you. I held him tight. You're here now. That's what matters. In the weeks that followed, things didn't magically fix themselves. Healing isn't like that. It's slow, uneven, full of steps forward and little slips back. But for the first time in a long while, there was movement. I signed the refinance papers, but only after Tom, the lawyer, reviewed every line. We added a quitclaim deed that would remove my name from the title once the new loan closed. No more loose ends. Michael and Sarah paid the closing costs themselves, no dipping into the equity for that. Felt fair. I started coming over again, but on new terms. Saturdays only at first. I'd arrive at 10 with ingredients for lunch and we'd cook together. Sarah was quieter than before, careful with her words, but she tried. She'd ask my opinion on recipes, laugh at my old stories about Michael as a boy. The kids clung to me like I'd never been gone. Lily showing me every drawing. Noah dragging me to the backyard to see his fort made of cardboard boxes. One afternoon, as we peeled potatoes side by side, Sarah said softly, I talked to a therapist. About my mom. About patterns. She didn't look at me, just kept scraping the skin in long, even strokes. I didn't realize how much I was carrying until I started unpacking it. I nodded, letting the silence sit. It takes courage to look at those things, I said. I'm proud of you for trying. She glanced up then, surprised. Maybe she'd expected judgment. But I'd learned something in all this. Holding on to resentment only poisons the holder. Michael opened up too in his own way. One evening after the kids were in bed, he poured us both a small glass of the bourbon he saves for special occasions. We sat on the porch swing, the chains creaking softly the way they always have. I should have stood up for you sooner, he said, staring out at the dark lawn. I kept thinking if I just kept the peace, everything would smooth over. But I let you down. I rested my hand on his arm. You're here now. That matters. He turned to me, eyes shining. I missed you, Mom. More than I let myself admit. We didn't hug right away. Men like Michael need a moment. But then he leaned over and wrapped his arms around me like he did when he was small. I felt his shoulders shake just once, and that was enough. Word travels in families, of course. My sister Ruth called one Sunday, her voice full of questions. I heard you and Sarah had a big blowout. Something about money and the house. I smiled into the phone, stirring soup on the stove. We had some misunderstandings, but we're working through them. That's all you're giving me? She teased. That's all there is, I said gently. Some things are private until they're healed. She let it go, but I knew others talked. At Bridge Club, the ladies eyed me with that mix of sympathy and curiosity. Heard you put your foot down with that daughter-in-law of yours, Marjorie whispered one afternoon, dealing cards with a sly smile. Good for you. I just smiled back and played my hand. There's dignity in silence, I've learned. Let people think what they will. The truth belongs to those who lived it. Sarah's family got wind of it too, somehow. Her Aunt Karen, the one from the grocery store, sent a long email apologizing for gossiping, saying Sarah had explained everything. I wrote back a short note. Water under the bridge. Family is complicated. Wishing you all well. No need to air the details. Justice doesn't always mean public reckoning. Sometimes it's quieter. A boundary held, an apology accepted, a relationship slowly mended. By spring, the quitclaim was filed. My name was off the deed for good. Michael handed me the recorded copy one Saturday, along with a bouquet of yellow roses from the garden center. You're free of us now, he joked, but his eyes were serious. I took the papers and set them aside. I was never looking to be free of you, I said, just to be treated like family. He nodded, understanding. The real change showed in the small things. Sarah started texting me photos, Lily's school project, Noah's first lost tooth. She invited me to Lily's spring recital without hesitation. I went, sat in the third row, clapped until my hands hurt when my granddaughter curtsied in her little blue dress. Afterward, Sarah hugged me in the lobby. Quick, but real. Thanks for coming, she whispered. Where else would I be? I said. That summer, we took the kids to the lake like we used to when they were babies. Packed sandwiches, sunscreen, the old striped blanket. Michael grilled hot dogs while Sarah and I watched the children splash in the shallow water. The sun was warm on my shoulders. The air smelled of pine and charcoal. At one point, Sarah sat down beside me on the blanket, passing me a cold lemonade. I was wrong, she said quietly, about so many things, but especially about you. I looked at her, really looked. The tightness around her mouth had softened. She looked lighter. We all make mistakes, I said. What matters is what we do after. She nodded, eyes on the kids. I want them to grow up knowing their grandmother. Really knowing you. That's all I ever wanted, I said. We didn't say more. We didn't need to. Life settled into a new rhythm. I still have my little house, my garden, my routines. But now Sundays are open again. Sometimes I go to them, sometimes they come to me. The children fill my rooms with noise and sticky fingers and drawings taped to my fridge. I'm not naive. There are still moments. Sarah gets overwhelmed. Michael withdraws when work is hard. Old habits die slow. But we talk now. We name things instead of letting them fester. And me? I've learned something important. Love isn't just giving until there's nothing left. Sometimes love means standing firm. Saying no when it matters. Protecting your own heart so you can keep giving from a full place. I held the line not out of cruelty, but out of self-respect. And in the end, it brought us all closer. Family isn't perfect. It's messy, flawed, human. But when you fight for it the right way, not with weapons but with truth and boundaries and forgiveness, it can mend stronger than before. That's the lesson I carry now. And on quiet evenings, when I sit on my own porch with a cup of tea, watching the stars come out, I feel peace. Real peace. The kind that comes from knowing you did what was right, even when it was hard, even when it hurt. Time has a way of softening edges, doesn't it? After the whispers started making their rounds, after the family gatherings carried that quiet undercurrent of knowing glances, things settled into a new rhythm. Not perfect, but honest. Sarah stopped telling her version of the story. She didn't have to. Everyone had heard both sides now. At the next holiday dinner, Easter at Linda's, Sarah arrived early to help set the table. She wore a simple sweater, hair loose, no makeup trying to hide anything. When I walked in with my deviled eggs, she met my eyes and said, "Hi, Evelyn. Let me take that for you." No forced smile, just quiet respect. Michael pulled me aside later, while the kids hunted for eggs in the backyard. "Mom," he said, voice low. I talked to Sarah. Really talked. About everything, the stories she told, the way she shut you out. We're seeing a counselor now. Together. I nodded, watching Noah find a bright blue egg under the azaleas. That's good, son. That's real work. He hugged me then, longer than he had in years. I should have stood up sooner. For you. Patted his back. You're doing it now. That's what matters. The public consequences weren't loud or dramatic. No big confrontations, no shunning. Just a gentle shift. Sarah's closest friends from her old mommy group drifted a little. Invitations to certain lunches dried up. At the kids' school events, some of the other mothers gave her polite nods instead of warm hugs. She felt it, I know she did. I saw it in the way she lingered at pickup, watching Lily run to me with open arms while she stood a step behind. One afternoon, she came to my house alone. No kids, no Michael. She stood on the porch with a small potted hydrangea in her hands, the kind with soft pink blooms. I don't expect forgiveness overnight, she said, handing it to me. But I wanted to say it again, face to face. I was wrong. I let my fears turn into cruelty. I hurt you, and I hurt the kids by keeping them from you. I'm sorry. I took the plant, felt its weight solid, alive. Come in, I said. Tea. We sat in my kitchen, sunlight slanting through the window onto the table. She told me things she hadn't before. About her own mother, how criticism had been disguised as help, how every visit left scars, how postpartum anxiety after Noah had twisted her thoughts, made her see threats where there were none. I projected it all onto you, she said, voice breaking. You were safe, loving, and I pushed you away because being close scared me. I listened, really listened, and for the first time, I saw her not as the woman who'd taken my family from me, but as a daughter carrying her own wounds. I forgive you, I said quietly, not because it was easy, but because holding on to anger was heavier than letting go. She cried then. I reached across the table and held her hand until she was done. Healing didn't happen all at once. There were still awkward moments. Family picnics where conversations paused when we walked up, or Sarah hesitating before asking my opinion on Lily's school project. But slowly, trust grew back. Like a garden after winter. Tentative green shoots, then stronger stems. Michael started calling more just to talk. He'd ask about my day, tell me about work without the careful filter. The kids spent weekends with me. Sleepovers filled with pancakes and board games and stories about their grandfather they'd never met. I taught Lily to knit, Noah to plant seeds in my backyard beds. Their laughter-filled rooms that had been too quiet for too long. Sarah joined us sometimes. She'd sit on the porch swing with me while the kids played, asking about Robert, about how I managed alone after he passed. One evening, as the sun set orange over the rooftops, she said, "You're stronger than I ever gave you credit for." I smiled. Strength isn't loud, dear. It's just showing up. We refinanced again a year later, this time properly removing my name from the deed. I signed without hesitation. The house was theirs now, fully. A gift completed. I moved forward in my own way, too. I took a trip with Doris to Savannah, something I'd always wanted to do. Walked the cobblestone streets, ate shrimp and grits, sat by the river watching ships go by. I joined a book club at the senior center, started volunteering at the children's hospital reading to little ones. My life expanded beyond waiting for phone calls that might not come. And through it all, I learned something important. Boundaries are necessary, but walls are choices. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's the door you open when you're ready to live again. Family isn't perfect. It bends, it bruises, sometimes it breaks. But if you're willing to do the quiet work, listening, apologizing, showing up, it can mend stronger than before. I still have that hydrangea Sarah gave me. It's blooming now in my front flower bed, fuller every year. A reminder that even after the hardest winters, things can grow again. These days, when I drive down Maple Street, I don't feel that old ache in my chest anymore. The oak tree is fuller now, its branches heavy with new leaves each spring. I still visit on Wednesdays, but sometimes I'm invited on Saturdays too, or for no reason at all. The kids call it Grandma Day, and they meet me at the door with drawings and stories and sticky hugs that smell like juice boxes and playground dirt. Sarah and I have found our rhythm. It's not the mother-daughter closeness some people dream of, but it's real. We really talk about hard things and small things. She asks my advice now, not out of obligation, but because she trusts it. And when she disagrees, she says so gently, without walls. Michael says we're both better for it. He's lighter these days, laughing easier. The worry lines around his eyes softer. I've made peace with what happened. I don't replay the hurt anymore. Don't wake up wondering what I could have done differently. Because I know now. I did what I could with the love I had. The rest wasn't mine to carry. Sometimes, on quiet evenings, I sit on my porch with a cup of tea and watch the neighborhood settle in for the night. Lights flickering on in windows, dogs barking down the block, the distant sound of children playing until their mothers call them home. And I feel grateful. Not because everything is perfect, but because it's enough. Family is messy. It stretches, it strains, it sometimes tears. But if you hold on with open hands instead of clenched fists, it can stitch itself back together. Stronger in the places it was broken. I learned that boundaries go both ways. That forgiveness isn't saying what happened didn't matter. It's choosing not to let it define the rest of your days. And that sometimes the greatest power a person has isn't in holding on tight, but in knowing when to let go and when to open the door again. Sarah still has that hydrangea in her yard now. One I gave her last Mother's Day. She texts me photos when it blooms. Look what's growing, she'll write. And I smile, because I know exactly what she means. Life didn't turn out the way I pictured it all those years ago when I handed over that down payment, full of hope and pride. But it turned out better in ways I never expected, deeper, truer, earned. I'm at peace, truly. And that, my dears, is the greatest victory of all. Would you like me to write the closing audience reflection? And there you have it, my dears. A story that started with a closed door and a cold phone call, and ended with arms open wide again. Not because the hurt never happened. It did, deep and sharp. But because we chose day after day to do the harder thing. Talk, listen, forgive, and try again. I won't pretend it was easy. Some nights I still feel the echo of that emptiness. The months without little voices calling me grandma. But I also feel the warmth of what came after. The trust we rebuilt. The laughter that fills my son's house now. The way Sarah and I can sit together over coffee and speak plainly without fear. Life has taught me this. People make mistakes, big ones sometimes. We build walls thinking they'll protect us, only to find they keep out the very love we need. But walls can come down brick by brick if someone is willing to start. I was blessed to have the chance to start. Not everyone gets that. So I hold it gently, gratefully. Now I turn to you as I always do. Have you ever been shut out by someone you love? Or maybe you've been the one closing the door, thinking it was for the best? What would you have done if you were holding the pen? If you had the power to say no or yes and change everything? Would you have signed right away? Held your ground like I did? Or found some other path entirely? Tell me in the comments. Share your stories, your heartaches, your healings. We're all walking this road together, learning as we go. If the story touched you, if it made you think of your own family, your own quiet battles, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. These stories come from real life, yours and mine, and sharing them helps us all feel a little less alone. Thank you for sitting with me today. Until next time, take care of your hearts and the hearts that love you.